Okay, I've been letting all the WWE news and everybody get their videos out, but WWE been boring. You know, the thing everybody talking about is the pay cuts. You know, they want wrestlers to accept half, like up. I think it was up to 50% less. So imagine if you're a wrestler, you know, and you're traveling all the time and all that, and let's say you had, I don't know, $200,000 contract, and they want you to take half. You know, and it actually sounds worse when you make way more. You know, oh, you got a $500,000 contract, and they want you to take half, $250,000. Now you live in a lifestyle where your bills are at $500K based off of that, and now you want me to go to $250,000. You know, these people probably got kids all up in private school that cost like $30,000 a year, and the cars, the house, and all that, and you want them to accept half. You know, well, we know they're not asking Roman Reigns and Jey Uso and them to take half and all that, but mid-card and down probably. But you know, supposedly that's why the New Day was like, nah, we ain't taking half. But imagine all of those NXT, just regular mid-card. They want you to accept half. And everybody can't run the AEW. You know, a lot of the AEW people, you know, they speak down on WWE and they don't want them here. Just like, was it MJF said, we don't want Aleister Black back in AEW. You know, I'm pretty sure Aleister Black not going to AEW. You know, you was in AEW, you left. You know, I don't know if he did it twice. I think maybe once. You know, AEW might take Zelina Vega. You know, she might be a bigger name than Aleister Black, I would think, because I had no idea who Aleister Black was. But I knew Zelina Vega. You know, I think they would take somebody like Bayley. You know, Mercedes Moné been pushing for that. You know, if I don't know if they came at Bayley with that, but I'm sure they came at Julia. I'm pretty sure they came at Jade. They probably came at all of them saying, hey, can you take half? Can you take a pay cut? And I said all that because Triple H got a bonus. All of the TKO people got a bonus. And then they're announcing, record sales. So you made more money, but you want talent to take a pay cut. You know, you're not making any new stars. You know, Cody Rhodes tour bus and all of these people with this fan experience stuff. You know, you got people paying $10K and all of that, but you want the roster to take a pay cut. And the sad thing is, WWE can do it because even with that pay cut, they can't go anywhere else and make that same money that they got with the pay cut. New Japan ain't paying them that. Noah ain't paying them that. Ring of Honor ain't paying them that. Only person that'll pay close to that is AEW, and they got a stacked roster. Why would AEW want a mid-carder? Like, just think about it. Like, why would AEW want a mid-carder that can't be built up? You know, you didn't build yourself up in WWE. Like, you're a good wrestler. You just got potential, but you don't have that fame. You know, look at Tommaso Ciampa. You know, we all knew he was good. He went to AEW, did a nice intro, you know, all of that stuff, but I mean, essentially he's an afterthought now. You know, there's no grand, you know, superstars that's going over there. You know, it would have to be somebody like Solo, Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre. Like, it would have to be somebody upper mid card or above to actually be worth signing to AEW. Like, AEW don't need these people. You know, now if the New Day went to AEW, you know, they got some stock. If R-Truth went to AEW, Damian Priest, you know, somebody that has a name. You know, none of these new people, like Carmelo Hayes can't go to AEW and just succeed like that. Like, I'm sorry to say, he not him if he left. Like, if he left and went to AEW, it would be fine, but he not gonna reach the top like a Swerve. Like, we all know this. You know, so does it matter if he left? Like, they probably like, nah, I'll just take the pay cut. Because, believe it or not, WWE is still the top dog. AEW just needs like an Eric Bischoff or somebody to really take them to the top. You know, there's no more Paul Heymans in the game. You know, there's no more Eric Bischoffs. There's no more Jim Cornettes in the game. You know, there's none of them. You know, the only other person I could think of is Shane McMahon, and he essentially left the business. You know, there's no one that could really, I think, catapult the business. Like, you know, I think anybody could do a better job than Triple H. You know, at this point, you really need some good writers. I think if AEW gets some good writers, you know, maybe get some veterans that aren't biased, you know, leave the AI alone. Honestly, the fans write a better show. The fans, you know, they need to hold some submissions like, hey, fans, send in your ideas, and they would book a better show than the WWE. But damn, WWE are just disrespecting their wrestlers at this point. They're sucking the fans dry, disrespecting their wrestlers, giving the fans the worst product that they could think of, and they're still number one. WWE could do no wrong. You know, WWE is just too big to fail, because whether the YouTubers say, hey, don't spend your money on this, use a VPN, you already pay for Netflix, get everything free, and fans are still paying top dollar for this garbage. So WWE is too big to fail. So if WWE is too big to fail, AEW just needs to get better. That's it. They got to step it up. They need a Lee Fitting. You know, they need somebody like that too. But let me know what y'all think. Like, why is WWE acting like this? They want to blame TKO, but you know, if TKO gonna do the shady business practices, at least build new stars. At least be better creatively. But we done said that a million times. You know, so first video back. all the nonsense and countless videos on this pay cut stuff. Hopefully this is the last mentioning of it. Let's see what SmackDown brings tonight.